Good morning and welcome to the beginning of another week. We would have just celebrated the season of Trinity or the Trinity Sunday, now into the season of Pentecost. A really busy week for us here at the college with commemoration as well. We want to take this opportunity to extend God's richest blessings and presence in the life of the newly consecrated Bishop Garth Minot from the Diocese of Jamaica, who is now Suffragan Bishop for the Kingston region. We uplift him and his family in our prayers as we meet this morning. Today is the final week of the season for us as a college. Our college closes at the end of this week, and so will our devotions as well for a period of summer. We want to take this opportunity to really thank all of you who have from time to time checked in with us and shared in our devotions and have made them what they have become. We trust that in the time away from us that you will continue to do the work that we have begun together, and that you may do it daily, setting aside this time constantly for your own devotion and for your guidance, because God is truly guiding us all in everything. We only need to be open to that and to recognize that God is truly with us. So as we continue this morning, we do so with the understanding that we are here together at this moment in time, and we can be together all through summer as we identify this time, and we gather wherever we are and we do our devotions together without the virtual connection, but there's always the spiritual connection. So this morning, as we come into this week, we want to build the Church of God. We want to build it. And that the way that we do that is through being open to being guided by the Holy Spirit of God, and through the development of our faith and trust in that one and only God. So let us now take our time as we as we come now, having had some moments of quiet, we come now into the divine presence. We remember this morning all that has taken place over this weekend. We bring before God the peace that passes all understanding. We bring before God ourselves in this time. And it seems as though we would have lost some audio at the beginning of this presentation. And so I just want to go back a few moments and just indicate to us that we are closing as a college at the end of this week and our meditations, and I wanted to invite you to set the time aside for your meditations to do your own work and to allow yourselves to be guided by the divine presence. I invite you this morning to come with me into the presence of God. To be open. I invite you now to reach out in love. Reach out to each other. And as you reach out with arms wide open. Reach out with hearts wide open. And with those hearts wide open, just bring all manner and conditions of men and women into this circle. And as we bring them into this circle, we open our hearts even more. We open our hearts to receive the divine grace as we act as receptors. Receptors of the love. Receptors of the peace. We know God is here. And as we act as receptors, just allow yourself to be so open that in a sense you disappear. And you're part of all of us, and we are part of you. And from that place of openness, we allow ourselves to receive of the divine grace and light. And as we receive, we reflect, we radiate. We radiate this divine grace in all directions. within our circle and outside of our circle. Touching every circumstance, every condition. We are reminded that God needs us to carry out this work. And our only personal task is to continually open ourselves more and more with each day. Open ourselves to receive. Open ourselves to be available. Open ourselves where there is no barrier, there's no obstruction to this divine grace coming through us. Not that we are special, not that we are more important than anyone else, but that we have responded. And as we respond, our task is to be the brightest that we can be in order that others may respond. To let go of self, so that like John the Baptist, who in letting go of self declares, I am the voice, nothing more, the voice of one crying in the wilderness. Today, I invite us in our present understanding of life, I invite us to be lights. I am the light. I am the light of one shining in the midst of darkness. You are the light shining in the midst of darkness. Or that we would come to perceive ourselves as just light. Just light. Just amazing light, radiating from the presence of the divine, being caught by each of us and being broadcast by each of us, shining into the dark areas of our world, the dark areas that have captivated so many. May we continue day by day to be such lights, that we may grow to be even brighter, and in growing to be brighter, that we are able to shine as we need to shine in this world. I'm going to share for this morning's reading from Matthew's Gospel, Matthew 17, verse 14 to 21. My thoughts are so much of John the Baptist this morning and his voice, but it is Matthew's Gospel that we want to read from this morning. Matthew 17, 14 to 21. When they came to the crowd, a man came to him, knelt before him and said, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic, and he suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him. Jesus answered, You faithless and perverse generation, how much longer must I be with you? How much longer must I put up with you? Bring him here to me." And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was cured instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, "Why could we not cast it out?" He said to them, "Because of your little faith. For truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." Here ends the reading. So here we are, once again, by God's grace, seeking to understand the path God has for us, trying to appreciate this call to deeper service, to deeper understanding. It's wonderful when we hear Jesus' words to his disciples, where he challenges them about their little faith, and then he goes on to tell them about the little faith that they need in order to be able to do what is necessary. I'm beginning to think that what we might call faith really isn't what Jesus refers to when he speaks to his disciples. For us, faith oftentimes is a belief system, a set of precepts, a set of doctrines. I believe for Jesus, faith is one, openness, and 2, the removal of self. Or we would say in our time, the removal of the focus on our egos, on our little selves. I believe what Jesus is saying to his disciples is, if you get yourself out of the way, if you get that idea of who you are out of the way, you can move mountains. We live in a world where we are told, and it is reinforced, that we are limited. But at the same time, we're told the sky is the limit, and we can be anything we want to be. But the sky that we speak of when we say that is a sky that has a ceiling, is a sky that is defined by what we can see. It is not the sky as we know it, which is endless, which is infinite. We tell our children that they can be anything. But when we say that, we are restricting that to the physical or the material reality of our world. And we do that because that has been our experience. We know that through education, you can be anything. So in a real sense, we have allowed education to become the new God, the new limit, the new expanse. And we've sold that to our children, and they have, yes, become any and everything. But in becoming any and everything, they have actually become nothing. Because they have gone down a cul-de-sac, a dead-end road, a road that leads nowhere, a road that cannot take them beyond this life. And we do that even with the little ones that we have in the past raised within the household of God. When it comes time for their examinations, etc., we pull them away from God, and we let everyone know that they are revising, they're preparing for their examinations. Isn't that funny? Because we might have said the week before, with God all things are possible. Now, I'm not here saying that the children are supposed to go to church and not do their studies and expect that they will be successful. No, you know I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that in doing what we do, we tell our children that there are two paths, and these paths are separate. As opposed to sharing with our children that the path of education and the path of this material world is a path that is contained in the totality of the divine presence. It is not separate from it. It is not in opposition to it. It is but a small part of it. And we need to be able to convey that. And in conveying that, we then are able to convey faith. Because faith means that the child is now open to all the divine possibilities without fear. Because oftentimes our work in our educational area is predicated at times on fear. The fear of failure, the fear of disappointing my parents, the fear of not getting through, the fear of being laughed at. There's a lot of fear going on in there. And we need to open that up to the divine love, to divine grace, to the wonder of life. And assist our children in joining in the wonder of life. as we grow older, we have lost the wonder of life. But we need to recover the wonder of life for ourselves first. And that's what faith is. Faith is a releasing of ourselves into the wonder of life, into the infinite possibilities. So oftentimes, as persons share their story, we either think that they're mad or we ignore them because their story hasn't been our story and their story sounds kind of far-fetched. It doesn't fit within the parameters of the so-called limitlessness where anything is possible in our world, but with restrictions. Persons in a moment of divine ecstasy share with a loved one an experience, a knowing, an understanding. And we, in response, try to set them up with someone that can give them psychiatric help without even reflecting on the possibility that there may be more going on. And friends, there is more going on in our world than we know. And we need to be able to understand that and grasp that. There is so much more going on in our world than we have read in textbooks in our schools, than we have heard from pulpits in our churches. There is so much more going on. God does not allow himself to be restricted to the methodologies that we choose to engage with. God's ways are infinite. And we don't even realize at times that we so pigeonhole God that when God reveals God's self to us, we are so conditioned by everything else that not only do we deny others their experience, but we deny ourselves our own experience, which in a sense is a sin against the Holy Spirit. When we deny our own experience of the divine, it becomes a sin against the Holy Spirit that is working in us. But we deny it because we don't want to be incarcerated, or we don't want to be put in the loony bin, or we don't want to be laughed at by friends. But yet, we call on God. The disciples called on God. The disciples tried to heal the young boy this morning in the reading, but to no avail. They had a ceiling. Jesus has no ceiling. There is no ceiling. And the sky is not the limit. It goes way beyond the sky. We ought to stop saying that, because we have defined our sky and we've limited our sky. It goes way beyond our sky. The invitation then for us all on this journey is the invitation to so get rid of that which we seek and which we use as limitations. Limitations for ourselves, limitations for each other, limitations that refuse to allow that which is circling around us, that which is available to us, that which we have matured enough in our consciousness to receive. We deny it. We deny it. Because we continually go back and read the experiences of persons whose consciousness was far beneath ours. And we deny what God is doing now. The same thing happened in Jesus' day. When the authorities said, only God can forgive sins. And so they were denying the consciousness of Jesus, the level that he had attained, because as far as they were concerned, there was a limit to the consciousness of the human person. And they were drawing on that which had gone before. And they weren't seeing that God was showing them that something more was now available to them. Not just to Jesus, but to them. In the same way, God is showing us in this moment as we go through all the various challenges. As more and more children come into our world with phenomenal abilities, they're not just gifted. They're not special. They represent that which is available to this current time. If we could only get beyond our limitations. If we could only move beyond our sense of what is possible. Jesus says, in a very interesting way, the little child shall lead you. Isn't that what's in front of us? These little children that are arriving in our world and seem to have been here before. Those little children that are arriving in our world and their ability to engage, to embrace concepts, to understand, to dialogue is mind-blowing. And all we are content to do is take videos of them and show it to our friends and have a good laugh. Are we missing something? Are we not missing something that God has placed right in our faces? As individuals have experiences of divine intervention and receive all manner of channeled messages, and we reject them and get help for them, are we not missing something? It serves no purpose to just continually do the same thing over and over again and expect to be going somewhere. The whole of this human experience always requires that something new is added to the collective, to the pot. Something new. Even in normal biology, there is always the need for new genetic material to be added in order that the particular species can adapt and go forward. Are we not learning from the physicality of our world about what is happening at the spiritual level? I hope we can, and I hope we will. And this morning's reading really speaks to this. That openness, that consciousness of Jesus, far outstretching the consciousness of his disciples, and showing them that with a new consciousness, anything is possible, and they're able to do anything. Pray, my brothers and sisters, that we too, in our time, may come to recognize that which is unfolding before us.